welcome everybody. How are you all? I am Dr. Jason Pave, chiropractor extraordinaire, coming at you live, as we do every week, except for last week. But I had too many things that overlapped. Didn't want to come too live, too late. So, for those of you who have never seen me before, I am Dr. Jason Pave, chiropractor extraordinaire, bringing you education, information, motivation, inspiration on the regular. And tonight we're going to do a little bit of information about NSAIDs. This is going to be our topic tonight. The truth about NSAIDs, relief risks and alternatives. So stick around as we get into that because I felt like we were dealing with a lot more of. I just felt like it's something we talk about sometimes, and I really felt like recently in the office I've been seeing this rash of much more prescription of certain types of NSAIDs than before, and I wanted to discuss that and talk about why and what's going on and how they can be good, bad, otherwise. So, you know me, I am not a fan of any medication, but we will talk about the pros and cons. So, as you all come on here, if you've never seen me before, please put a number 1 in the comments below. Let me know where you're watching from. If you have seen me before, I've come back from work, put a number 2 in the comments below. You can tell me where you're watching from as well. As always, please feel free to share this out, put it on your page, private messaging group, and post whatever. Let's get some other eyeballs on this, and let's get some more education out there. As always, if you'd like to follow us on all of our stuff, here's our link tree information up there. You can just I'll get too close to my camera. I'm not good at this yet. Bang, hit that right there. And Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all the things. As always, if you comment, like, subscribe, all the stuff that everyone always says. We'll say that again. Let me get to some of this here. I'm going to actually put. I'm still not good at navigating this. Here we are. Let me see if I can put on the old ticker. First, I'll put our information. For those of you who don't know me, we have a wellness center, the one-stop holistic shop that is the Vitality Center, right in Hauppauge. So if you're on Long Island or the city or anywhere nearby and like to come, that's our contact information. If you'd like to see me or any of our amazing cat practitioners, and as always, I'll put our other information in a second. And that's me. Bang. So let's talk about NSAIDs. Let me just get my chat up here so I don't miss anything. Maybe any of you were saying to me or not saying to me. No one's saying anything to me so far, so we're good. And if you are watching on replay, please feel free to watch replay. And if you do share, write shared so I can thank you for doing so. All right, so let's get to some slides, shall we? Bam. Why is this not coming on? So, for whatever reason, my slideshow is not coming up. There we go. Okay. So, here I am. Let's talk about NSAIDs. What are NSAIDs? Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, right? So we'll come to that little picture right here. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. That's what they are, drugs. That's what D stands for. So there are steroids that people can use, like prednisone or methyl dose pack, things like that, as well as things like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And we have listed here a number of different over-the-counter ones. There's one conspicuous one missing because I hate it. And again, they're usually used to promote pain, inflammation, fever, things like that. So it's probably one of the most utilized things by people, I would imagine. You go to any kind of drugstore, you're going to find a whole pain section where you're going to have not just things like this, though. You'll have Voltaren and your acetaminophen and things like that. So most of these work by one specific pathway. We'll talk about another one in a minute, but there are a few different pathways in the body that modulate or mitigate or propagate, we should say, maybe is a better way to put it, your inflammation. One of the big ones is the COX-1 pathway, the COX-2 pathway, and the 5-LOX. Those are the 3 big ones. There's also prostaglandins, things like that also mediate inflammation as well. But the majority of what we're talking about here tonight, what you see on that list, like aspirin affects prostaglandin synthesis, COX-2 is more your lead, your naproxens, your ibuprofens, and then a lot of your prescription NSAIDs are more COX-2 inhibitors, like your Movic and your Celebrex, which we'll get into. Tylenol works a little differently. It works on what's called the 5-LOX pathway. We don't like Tylenol for a lot of other reasons. First of all, it's not a great antipyretic. It's not great with fever. But when it comes to what it does to the body from a side effect standpoint, we know bueno. So why are we taking painkillers, right? Most people are taking them because they're in pain. That's why they're called painkillers and anti-inflammatories. So you have an injury, a joint hurts, whatever. And second is a problem. People, I have a headache, take this. I have my ankle hurts, take that. Oh, I sprained this, I injured that. Loading up on all these drugs. And while they can have effect and relief, what are they doing and what are they hiding? Okay, so we have to understand that drugs of all caliber don't work with the body. They work to shut down certain pathways usually. Okay, so when we talk about COX-2 specifically, COX-2, these are COX-2 inhibitors. Basically, they will shut down gene expression. Like Celebrex would shut down gene expression of the COX-2 gene 98%. So it wasn't very potent anti-inflammatory. Okay, it still is. So people would get a lot of relief with it. But the problem isn't that you had too much, not enough Celebrex on your body, or too much COX-2, in your body. It's that something happened, caused inflammation along numerous pathways, including that one, and you have pain and inflammation. So if we block that pathway, the symptom goes away. Pretty straightforward. Everyone's like, okay, got it. What's wrong with that? Well, there's a lot of things wrong with that, but the question for us as holistic practitioners who get to the root cause, we're detectives, right? Our goal is to find the root cause of an issue, not the symptom. We want to treat the cause. Is why are you in pain? Right? My back hurts. Okay, well, why? I picked up a piano. It could be something that's similar. It could be, I don't know, I went over to pick up a sock from the floor, my back went out. Well, your back didn't go out to pick up the sock on the floor, right? It was that last aspect of a repetitive stress thing that caused it to go out. Like, hey, if many of us remember when we were kids in cafeteria and in junior high school, whatever, and you take the spoon and you bend it back and forth, and you do it over and over, and eventually it snaps. Well, what happened there? Was it the last one? Was it the straw that broke the camel's back? Or was it the repetitiveness of it all, cumulatively, that added to it? Most of us deal with cumulative stress over time that leads to an injury. But there can be trauma too. I rolled my ankle playing soccer. Ball hit me in the face, whatever. And again, these things can be really helpful about dropping that inflammation. The question is, why is there inflammation there? Whether it could be an injury or something else. But so instead of fixing the reason why it happened, we decide to just mask the symptom. And listen, in the short term, especially with high inflammation, especially you're crippled and you can barely move. I understand why you would move to these things. And sometimes nothing else helps, right? That's why we like to have the option. But these shut these pathways down completely, or very effectively, and lower inflammation and pain. But in the short term, yes, it's not maybe as bad as it could be. But long term, it's a big difference because you need inflammation to heal. Okay, without inflammation, you cut your hand, you bleed to death. Right, so you need inflammation. That's how our immune system works, our body works. That's how we rebuild all those kinds of things. Without inflammation, you can't repair that injured tendon. All right, without inflammation, you can't repair that torn or injured, strained muscle. So you need inflammation for the healing process. But too much inflammation is not always good and can be very painful and uncomfortable. So in the short term, yes, some of these drugs can be really helpful to get you through the first phases when there's severe injury and pain. But for a long-term use, it will impair the healing process. And sometimes if it does for too long, you'll never fully heal the issue, and your itis becomes nenosis, and you have a problem, but not inflammation anymore, and these drugs don't really seem to work much anymore. We'll get more into that in a minute. So let's go back to our slides. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them below. And as of now, I'm not seeing any questions, so we're good. All right. Why is this giving me trouble today with the slides? It's trying to be troublesome. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I'll tell you what NSAIDs are. And listen, even though we're talking about NSAIDs specifically, this will also affect cortisones and prednisone. Their job is to do some of these things too. They just do different pathways. Like we have cortisol in the body, and cortisol is released in times of stress for the anti-inflammatory aspect of it. Now, the problem with the cortisones, and cortisol and things like that for long-term use in the body. It becomes pro-inflammatory. But people are given these steroid, creams and things like that, and injections and pills to help lower inflammation. But over time, you can't use them for long periods of time because they become detrimental. You can start to leach bone tissue. So a lot of times they try to move you away from those things, and additionally use the NSAID. Okay. So again, even the over-the-counter drugs do carry risks, right? So some of these drugs can affect stomach ulcers. So you know, the ibuprofens can affect GI tract and kidney. The aspirins can definitely can affect ulcers because it affects prostaglandin synthesis, can cause blood thinning, more so with the aspirins, but somewhat with the ibuprofens long term. Like I said, kidney stress with the ibuprofens and naproxens. Comes like blood pressure, heart risk, things like that. But again, they all come along with their risks. All right. But those are some of the side effects. And when it comes to Tylenol, it's about liver toxicity, affecting detox, flushing glutathione from the body, bad stuff. We hate Tylenol. We're going to throw it away. So your acetaminophen, your Tylenol, your paracetamol, your NyQuil, Dayquil, your Percocet, throw those out. All right. So the slower healing, we talked about that, right? So they can interfere with the body's natural recovery process because you need some inflammation to heal. If you shut down inflammation too much instead of modulating it, you can affect tissue repair and response recovery time. So one of the issues we had, even if we went back to COVID, is that people are saying, "Oh, well, take this, don't take that anti-inflammatory because it'll help you." Well, no. At the end of the day, all anti-inflammatories, pretty much equally, will affect immune response. It will blunt your immune response and not make it as optimal. So yes, you may feel a little better in the short term, but over a long period of time, you can't fully heal. And if you can't get full tissue repair, so let's say you injure a tendon in your shoulder, you injure your rotator cuff, and you get a supraspinatus tendonitis. So one of the rotator cuff muscles tendon is damaged and inflamed. And if you do too many other things to lower inflammation before it fully heals, you'll have a damaged tissue without active inflammation, so you become what's called a tendinosis. But the problem is still there. So these people have limitation of motion, pain, things like that, but they're not actively inflamed, if you will. So those drugs don't even really help anymore. And now you have to work harder to get these things better. That's why sometimes they use techniques like prolotherapy, because they found that, hey, sometimes these things heal not because of the injection of cortisone into the joint, but the trauma of the needle causing new inflammation that had gone away and restore that in healing. So prolotherapy will actually inject things like irritating agents like calcium gluconate into a joint that's going to be gone into an osis to bring back the itis at a low level to stimulate the body to continue to heal. Because there's a whole healing cascade that happens due to inflammation. If you shut that off too much, you can't have good tissue repair. All right? Sorry to bother you and sorry to bore you all to death, but hopefully you're all picking up what I'm putting down. If you are picking up what I'm putting down, please say number 3 in the comments below so I know you're all following me what I'm saying. All right? Okay. So let's keep going. And then let's talk about a symptom, right? Pain is not the problem, it's the signal. Like it's turning off the smoke alarm, does not put out the smoke, does not put out the fire. Duh. So again, NSAIDs, they may cause the pain to go away, but the reason the pain was there is not better, right? So we'll talk about the oil analogy in a minute, but I think that fire alarm analogy is great, right? You have a smoke detector in your house, right? When it goes off because you burn the bacon, right? And you pull the thing off and you pull the battery out, it's not making noise anymore. So the symptom's gone, but the smoke's still in the house. Your wife's going to still come down and go, what the heck happened that you're burning up the house and there's smoke everywhere and it smells like bacon and I can't see, right? You took the symptom down, but the problem is still there, right? The symptom was the noise of the fire alarm. You took the battery out, the symptom went away, right? But the problem underneath is still there. So we talk about, I use the oil light analogy a little bit more. So, if the oil light in your car comes on, you're not just going to put a piece of tape over the oil light and say, "Oh, the problem's gone," right? That's just silly, right? But let's take it a step further. So your oil light's on. You take your car to the mechanic, say, "Hey, listen, oil light came on." He goes, "All right, I'll fix it up for you." Come back a little later, all fixed. Great. Pay your bill, you leave on your way, and a few days later, your engine seizes because there's no oil left in it. And you go back to the guy, like, what the hell happened? Right? I came with my oil light on, and my engine just seized because I had no oil. What the heck did you do? Well, he told me the oil light was off, so I took the bulb out. The oil light was off now. You would not be very happy if your mechanic did that. Yeah, but that's what most traditional medicine doctors will do when you come in with a pain or injury, right? Right? Oh, you hurt your back. Here, I'll give you a prescription strength ibuprofen, or here's a methyl dose pack. Here's your meloxicam, right? That's another COX-2 inhibitor. It's pretty potent. Nowadays, like, used to be Celebrex all the time. Now, just for whatever reason lately, I feel like everyone I talk to that's got their doctor's giving us something for chronic pain, it's usually meloxicam. Like, oh, I got degenerative change in my knees. Well, here's your meloxicam. Or I got, my back, hurts me. Here's your meloxicam. Like, this is Mobic everywhere. Mobic is meloxicam. Meloxicam is Mobic, I should say. Or Mobic is meloxicam. Mobic is not the generic version. Anyway, right? I just feel like every time I turn around, like, the patients are on meloxicam. I'm like, what is going on here? And these things are very potent COX-2 shutdowns. Now, why is that a problem? Well, a COX-2 gene is not just about pain and inflammation. All right, we already talked about how you need inflammation, but it affects cardiovascular, all these other things, and you're affecting their ability to function properly because you're shutting them off. They don't do anything to modulate. So that's why we look to natural stuff to help with inflammation, because they're known to help lower and modulate your inflammatory response without shutting it down. Right? Now, again, things like curcumin, curcuminoids, things like that are great natural anti-inflammatories. Are you going to take curcumin or your pain go away the way meloxicam would? No. So if you can't move because the pain is so bad and you want something to help mitigate that for the short term, you're going to have to get your NSAID. I recommend against it, but you do what you got to do. I don't want people suffering. As long as you're going after the root cause and not just taking that to get better, right? Oh, I hurt my back and I took ibuprofen for a few days and that was better. No, you're not. Your symptoms went away. Like, I can tell people, like, just because you take the battery out of the fire alarm doesn't mean the fire's gone, right? So, or you took the bulb out for the oil change light, you have to get to the root cause. So if you injure yourself, don't just think, oh, well, I'm going to fight through this. I'm going to keep doing these things and I'll be better in a few days just because I took my ibuprofen. Yeah, your inflammation will come down. You're injured, but you're not going to be fully healed. And actually, you're going to predispose yourself to re-injury because you're not allowing for proper healing. So you're injured your back or your ankle, go to your chiropractor. Go to your practitioner who's going to work on anything and do things to help you with getting things moving more properly, doing therapies to help modulate and improve inflammation. So, like, when we do things like cold laser therapy, the point of that is to stimulate and modulate, enhance the healing process. Yes, it'll lower the gross inflammation, but it'll also stimulate the healing point that goes with it, the fibrinogen, all the things you need to rebuild that tissue, just accelerate it. So a lot of things we do interventionally from a holistic standpoint is not just to help modulate the pain and inflammation, but also stimulate the healing to go faster and actually go the right direction. So I like the cool things we do. So those are some things to think about. So curcumin is a great natural anti-inflammatory. Food modulation is important. There's a lot of diets that are anti-inflammatory. The AIP is one example of that. There are a lot of things that are inflammatory mediators in the body. So when we talk about more chronic issues, like a knee degenerative change, things like that, a lot of times people who have, so here's a perfect example. I have plenty of patients that come in with arthritis in their knees, right? And a lot of times when we start working on them, chiropractic, maybe some other therapies, and their pain goes down, even though this x-ray shows tons of arthritis and they're talking about knee replacements and this and that. Well, why is that? Well, because we improved movement in the joint and we restored normal motion, because that restriction in motion was affecting and causing some more inflammation. So once we took that down, the inflammation backed off. The problem was not as bad anymore. It doesn't mean the arthritis isn't there. The arthritic change, I should say. The itis part has gone away or lowered because it's not about just about inflammation. Now, sometimes it is. Sometimes you need more than that. Stem cells, things like that are great for that also. But it's always about, well, the joint looked like that before. If you have someone's like, oh, my knee has been hurting me for a couple of weeks. I went to the doctor and I have horrible arthritis. So he had to put me on anti-inflammatory meds and they want to do shots and they're talking about knee replacement. When you've been in pain for a little while, your x-ray didn't look like that probably 6 months ago. So what's the difference? It didn't get worse like that overnight. Well, it's about inflammation, but also about mobility and movement. So we help to lower that inflammation naturally, modulate it. One of the worst things you could ever do is take your NSAID when you have an injury or pain prior to an activity. And here's why. Why do we have pain? Well, the pain is there to tell us there's an injury or a problem. Don't do something, right? So if you injured your back and you can't bend forward, don't take an anti-inflammatory pill so you can bend forward, right? Because the whole point is the bending forward is causing more damage to the damaged area, right? So don't do that, right? Don't take a drug so you don't think you can't feel what you're doing and do it, because then you're just going to keep injury. The pain is there to stop you from doing something that continues to injure or re-injure or make or exacerbate a problem. So if you take an anti-inflammatory to stop the problem and then you do the thing that was causing the exacerbation, you're taking away to stop the protection, right? So for example, your knees hurt when you play tennis. Okay, but I feel great. I take my ibuprofen before I play tennis and I can play tennis without pain. Well, the point of the pain was to tell you maybe don't do this activity with tennis, because what's going to happen is now you took the indicator to maybe take it easier, slow it down, whatever, causing more damage, more degenerative change because nothing's stopping you, and then you get worse after. So you want to cause a problem that continue to get worse and worse and worse, take a drug like that prior to an activity. It's one thing if you want to take it after. It's bad, it's bad enough. Like, hey, I'm going to play. Oh, I'm really sore after I play. Let me calm that inflammation down. But it's worse if you do it before, drop the inflammation down, and then go and do the thing that would actually, the pain would help you stop from doing too much. Like, let's say you normally could play, I don't know, one set without the pain becoming or inflammation too much. But if you take the drug, I can do a full 3 sets. Well, what do you think you can be like later? Because you mask the symptom again, right? Not good. And when we talk about foods, we won't get too much in depth, but when you talk about things like arachidonic acid is a prostaglandin precursor. It's basically what our body uses to make inflammatory molecules. Prostaglandins mostly are inflammatory, and fats are used to make inflammation and anti-inflammation of the body. So when you talk about fats, I've talked about before, there's omega-3, omega-6, omega-9. All right, omega-6s, most of them are pro-inflammatory precursors. 3s and 9s are your anti-inflammatory precursors. Now, when we talk about the hunter-gatherers that we are, in general, a hunter-gatherer had a ratio of omega-6s to your 3s and 9s to your pro-inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. It's about 2 or 3 to 1 ratio. Okay, that's about normal. The average American diet, the SAD diet, is 20 to 30 to 1 inflammation to anti-inflammation. That's a little disparity, don't you think? We're sitting in inflammation from a lifestyle. So omega-6s are shoved. If it comes in a bag or a box, it's usually loaded with one of the inflammatory omega-6s like soybean or canola oil. But soybean, canola, safflower, sunflower, corn oil, the oil, sesame oil, the oil that you find in wheat, linseed, flaxseed. Flax is a mix, but they're all 6s. Peanut oil, they're all 6s, right? Your 3s, fish oil, your cranberry seed oil, your pumpkin seed, chia, things like that. Your 9s would be like your olive oil, right? Flax is a mix of all 3. A lot of nuts are a mix of all 3. Peanuts, all 6. And there's pros and cons to some others. There are some good 6s like GLA and stuff like that. But understand that too much versus the other, and our foods is loaded with these inflammatory omega-6s. These other things are inflammatory, right? So being more acidic than alkaline, being more inflammatory. There are definitely inflammatory things to look in the body. But we won't go too far into that. Even not having the good bacteria in your gut is more pro-inflammatory to your gut and to your whole body. The more and having a leaky gut leads to more inflammatory type foods that you're eating that can lead to more food intolerances, which more inflammation in the body. Bad bacteria in the gut release things into the body that are inflammatory to your body. So many other things that do it. So what are good ways to help with your inflammation? Well, there's some natural anti-inflammatory stuff. If you want, let me pull up a little thing here for y'all. So one of the companies I work with is called FullScript. And with FullScript, I'm going to change it. Right up here, you can actually create your own account with FullScript or request one under me, and I can help with prescription for natural stuff that helps modulate inflammation. Some curcumin products, things like that. Like this is one product I like from a company called Zymogen that's called Synovix. And they're one of it's called Synovix Relief. And that is a curcumin-based product. And in their own studies, they actually showed that when they did, some people use Tylenol, some people use Synovix, they found that both had a similar pain level reduction scale over time. So in a head-to-head, it actually was similar too, without all those side effects and modulating inflammation. Just as a great example, we love that. There are a lot of things that lower inflammation in the body too, like being ketosis helps into dismantle the inflammasome, okay, which is a mitigator of inflammation, especially in acute injury. So especially if we sit in CDR, cell danger response. I could not think of those initials the other day when I was talking to somebody, and it just finally came back to me. But anyway, so let's go back to our slides here. Let's talk about that a little bit more. Okay, so we want to make sure we're very calm and careful with these things. So pain is not a problem; it's a signal. All right. We talk about the oil, pulling the plug out, dashboard lights. You have to fix the problem underneath. So things like chiropractic care, posture and movement assessment, anti-inflammatory lifestyle. So there's definitely things we do throughout our day that are repetitive and inflammatory. Like how do you sit at your desk chair? Are you on a mouse all day doing this? Repetitive stress leads to inflammation. Okay. Remember we talked about bending that spoon back and forth? You ever feel that before bends? There's a lot of heat release. It's because you're breaking some bonds, but it's that repetitive stress that brings inflammation, heat. All right. Again, start with small steps. Talk to your professional, like myself, about your NSAIDs. Try things like chiropractic care, make lifestyle changes, stretch, move more, eat whole foods, reduce stress, exercise, all those things. All right. Ways to lower stress and inflammation in the body. Let me just go through real quick. So I hope you all picked up what I'm putting down. If you found this valuable, please write value in the comments below and definitely share this out. That's the best way to say thank you and that you found this helpful. Maybe I wasn't reinventing the wheel tonight, but hopefully I gave you some other food for thought and understand that if there's a problem and there's pain and inflammation, there's a reason why, and you should get the root cause and treat that, not just the symptom of pain and inflammation. And if you want to treat the pain and inflammation symptom, definitely use things that help modulate, work with the body to help the continued healing and not to shut off a pathway and cause side effects and negative effects in the long run. So I hope that has been helpful. And with that, I'm going to bid you all farewell in a moment here. So let's just go to my last slide where now we talked about recapping, getting to the root cause. If you have questions and you're local to us, definitely reach out to the Vitality Center. And more than happy to help you if you'd like some natural supplements we can use. The old full script links up top there. I will make myself bigger here again. Listen to. Right now, a little link right there. You can hop on there and we can get you some natural stuff. Or if you have questions, feel free to message us here right on our stream here on Facebook or YouTube. Or if whether you're watching live and replay, we get back to you. And if you are watching replay again, like I said, please don't say replay. And as always, hopefully this has been helpful. If you did find value, write value, or even put the fire emoji, because we have the fire of information we're going to squash. Either way, we're going to say thank you, and we'll do my end cards here. And don't forget to, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, subscribe, like, share. As always, we do appreciate it. And from me to you and yours, thank you, and have a great night from Dr. Ketone right here at the Vitality Center, Dr. Jason Peak. See you all in the next video next week.